The Spot Track Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Well, everybody, welcome to April and welcome to the SpotTrack.com podcast. I'm Kevin Sylvester along with Paul Peck and the founder of SpotTrack.com, Mike Giannetti. And as always, this podcast is presented by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment, empowering professional athletes and entertainers with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions about their finances and wealth. And frankly, Morgan Stanley can inform you, too, about your wealth. But learn more by visiting morganstanley.com/GSE, Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC.
Think they've reached out to Zion yet? What do you think?
They should.
Yeah,
they should.
He's officially a professional now, right?
Right. Did he sign a sneaker contract already?
I would imagine, right?
Right. It's got to be done.
On the way out the door.
Is it with Nike? They blew,
yeah.
out his shoe.
Oh, yeah, but it's probably
Of course it is. I was
going
to say they're paying a surcharge to get him, although probably privately they're like, we've never gotten this much attention and publicity for our sneakers, good or bad, than ever before.
Well, whoever has him has a potential dunk champion on their hands.
For 1 year, right?
Yes.
He'll do it 1 year, one and done. Is he one and done on that too?
No, actually, the NBA. If I didn't read the story in depth. How 2019 of me.
Yeah,
they're going to incentivize. I
saw this.
Right, $1 million to the winners. Right, so
to try to get better guys in.
Yeah, to try to get better guys in the dunk contest. Right. I mean, because when we were young.
Everybody.
Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, one of the greatest dunk contests ever.
Oh, yeah.
You had, who was that? Wilkins was in it.
Dominique Wilkins was awesome.
Dominique's brothers was awesome in
Phenomenal.
there.
Right.
Spud Webb, Orlando Woolridge was fantastic.
The Big O, Orlando Woolridge.
And I'm selling somebody, Sean Kemp, right? The Stars did it, and they did unbelievable dunks.
You know what? I'm sort of an anomaly in this, not to get off track, which we are.
Well,
we
are already there.
But I don't even need the superstars. Like, I love some of these freak athletes who I don't even know showing up and, like, you know what I mean? They've been practicing this for like 6 years. You know what I mean? Because I know they can do this. I don't need LeBron James to make that exciting. I need like that Aaron Gordon, the Zach LaVine. Those guys, those are fun.
But you need the stars like anything else.
But I'll relate it to golf. So everybody Saturday was hoping Tiger Woods was going to make it to Sunday.
Yeah.
All right, and he misses a 5-footer, and Biergaard makes it.
Yeah.
Great golfer.
Wait, who?
Yes,
Beer garden?
Exactly.
He went to the
Tiger
beer
Rory
garden?
was
What?
fun.
And listen, Cooch and Kisner make the final.
Nobody watches.
Well, hardcore golfers do, but if Tiger Woods is in that final, everybody watches.
Yeah. Same thing with the Final Four, right?
So there's a difference. If Duke makes it, yes.
Yeah, last off the topic thought there, I think it's really interesting that there's a significant debate about how good Zion Williamson's going to be in the NBA.
Not for me.
I think he should be
not
pretty
for
good.
me.
Well, but because he doesn't necessarily play the kind of game that the NBA has become, I think is a rather interesting topic of discussion over the next couple of months heading into the draft.
Zion Williamson is going to shed about 15 pounds, 20 pounds working out to get his body in NBA shape.
I agree.
Remember, he missed some significant time with an injury, and Coach K even said he's not really in full game shape. He's 285 pounds
and he moves
6'7".
Yeah.
He's Julius Peppers.
Yeah,
right? Remember when he played for North Carolina?
If he's smart, he calls LeBron and finds out that whole
nutrition,
that chamber he built in his house. He spent like $1.5 million a year basically to loan these things out. He's got a whole like spa built into the back of his house, and it's all of his training all year round. So if that's what he does immediately, right?
Zion is going to get himself in better shape, weight-wise.
My only concern with him is he hits the league and starts dumping threes all night. You know what I mean? Because it's physical. He doesn't want to get hurt.
I think he'd rather play the physical game.
My concern is he goes to the Knicks and we never hear from him again.
I wanted to have a whole show on that because I was thinking about it. We all want that to happen, right? But from a financial standpoint, do they even need to win if he's there? Like, doesn't him just being there raise the value of that franchise another $500 million?
It's already ridiculously raised for zero production whatsoever.
That's what I mean. Like, doesn't it raise it another $500 million just by him walking through the door?
Here's the question about many say Barrett will be the better NBA player.
That is the question.
Some people think the Morant kid from Murray State's going to be should be the first pick.
Yeah,
he's amazing too. Yes.
How do you value the rest of those Duke players now, who could do nothing around Zion Williamson the whole tournament?
Particularly the lack of outside shooting. They're supposed to be shooting.
They're supposed to be like the number 3, number 4 picks.
Right. I like the Morant kid. He can slash to the basket better. But Zion, some of those passes he makes off
That's
the
what I
dribble. I mean, I think you're going to see his skills just elevate.
It reminds me of LeBron.
Yes.
It all reminds me of
He
LeBron.
reminds you a lot. He's at an incredible starting point to get better, full-time, dedicated NBA training or whatever. And you're right, Mike. His game is as similar to LeBron as anybody that I can remember in the last roughly 10 years, with the ability to move and be as physically dominating at his size. That's LeBron, right? That's everything about LeBron.
LeBron didn't come into the league as a great shooter, and I wouldn't say LeBron's a great shooter now.
No.
But he's a lot better than he
He's
was.
a scorer.
He's a scorer. He's a special
great,
passer.
Great
though.
way to say it, Kevin.
And if Zion stays on that track,
absolutely.
I mean, he's going to be one of a kind. We're going to get to LeBron later, by the way.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's we'll get to LeBron later.
Not so warm and fuzzy either.
That's correct. Let's talk some NFL here because we are in the month of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
We've gotten through the initial free agency period. That doesn't mean players still aren't signing.
Based on Mike's list of available free agents, I think we can pretty much put free agency mostly to bed.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this, is just to sort of wrap up with some numbers. I mean, we're not.
Well, wait a second. Dominican Sue just tweeted out he's going to MetLife Stadium. Didn't say which team. Right?
Oh, I didn't see this.
Oh,
there was video of him driving by MetLife Stadium. I saw that.
But for which franchise?
Either that or he's on his way to some club in New York in Lower Manhattan.
Well, the emojis said,
See, I thought Chargers for him. That's where I had him pegged. This just seemed right. I mean, that team's right there. They've got to make a couple of moves here.
Well, he would make probably more money playing in New York, oddly enough.
True.
Or New Jersey, because it's the state of New Jersey.
Well,
anyway.
Yeah, the Jets still have plenty to spend, so that's where he's going.
Yeah, the names don't blow you away.
No.
By any means, except for maybe him and what?
No, none of them. None of them.
They're guys that are washed up or underachievers or injured guys. Frankly,
I love how we just use it. Now, I'm not blaming you on this. The term washed up, right? Yeah. Guys have had great careers, but Andy Levitre, he's washed up.
Yeah.
I know his father-in-law, by the way.
30.
I'll be pissed I said that, right?
33, 31, right. I don't even know. But
just guys past their prime. And frankly, 28, 29 is getting close to being past your prime these days in the NFL.
I mean, honestly, there are some defensive names, and I get why they're there, because these guys want $10 million, and there's a draft full of kids. I mean, just a plethora of defensive players in this draft. So I understand there, but, I mean, Ziggy Ansah, Sue, Mo Wilkerson, they're going somewhere.
Sure.
And those guys,
on one year deals at $7 million, probably right.
Someone's going to take a chance on Eric Berry. There's some names out there on the defensive side of the ball, but I understand not wanting to overprice them right now. So, not even worth really getting too deep down the rabbit hole with those guys. It's a bare cupboard in terms of what you can go and pick off now, but it's also a good time to sort of stop and take a look at the numbers and see what we have, because this is the time of year where I sort of do the assessments on the guarantees, because that's all that matters. I mean,
right, cash.
I'm going to ring it until you hate me for it, but the total value of these contracts just means nothing, and we're starting to see it in baseball, by the way, too, which is what we talked about last week. But it's better. The numbers are good. Before we start getting into too much math here, the numbers are good. They're up. They're way up from 5 years. So there's a good trend in terms of what people are getting guaranteed versus their total contracts. So just to sort of break it down here. By the end of the day, I've got maybe half a dozen contracts still to break down. Just that the league hasn't really provided that information yet. So, that aside, with what I have, we're at about $2.6 billion of total value. That's exactly where we were last year, by the way.
Okay.
So, just sort of worked out that way.
So wait, the cap is up, but spending's not overall.
Spending, the quality of free agents too was down this year. You got to remember we had Kirk Cousins last year. That was a big number one to get off the board at $84 million, right? So we didn't really have too many of those splash free agents. And there's a lot more movement elsewhere, which we'll get to as well. But just sort of worked out that the numbers were the same, even though the cap did rise $10 million. And the amount guaranteed, fully guaranteed at signing, also pretty much remained the same. By the end of it, when I get these full details in, we're going to be nearing that 43% mark. That's exactly where we were last year. So 43% of the contracts were fully guaranteed at signing. It's not good enough. For me, we should be at 50 each.
So, wait, you lost me for a second.
Okay.
Is that the percentage of total money that's guaranteed, or percent or amount of contracts that you said are...
And this is just free agents.
The average
signings.
free agent contract signed in 2019, 43% of it was fully guaranteed.
Okay, I got you.
So if it's
$10
million, 4 of it was guaranteed.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That makes it much clearer. Yes.
Yeah.
It should be. You're saying it should be 50-50.
Don't you think? I mean, isn't that the number we should be at this point? I mean, if it's a 4-year contract, everybody should have 2 years guaranteed.
If
right?
if I'm a player, I'd want 60% guaranteed, right?
Of course, but my point of here is 3-4 years ago we were at 34%.
Sure,
31% 2 years. I mean, it's way up.
So it's getting there. It'll get to 50. It's too big a jump right now, is what you're saying.
But actually, I'm no economist. I should call Morgan Stanley or Robert Raiola here. Yeah. It's really a rate of inflation, isn't it? Well, actually, it dipped in 2016.
No, because we're speaking in percentages.
I know. Yeah. Well, but I'm saying like sometimes you get a cost of living
3%,
increase of 3%.
Generally,
right?
3%.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we've gone, isn't it?
Except the middle class is gone. Right? Like people tell me to
just like America.
People tell me to adjust for inflation all the time, and I say I can't do that because you're losing. I mean,
sure.
With the veteran minimum salary, which just to explain how this works because it's important. Basically, if you've got over 4 years if you're a veteran, right? If you're a veteran in the league, and somebody wants to sign you on a 1-year deal, but they don't really trust you long term.
You're Jordan Mills on this list, offensive tackle. You're a veteran in the league. Okay.
Let's say you're an 8-year vet, right? You're way up there. You can sign for like a $900,000 contract, which gives you like a $90,000 signing bonus, right? It's all minimum stuff. You're guaranteed like less than $100,000. You're going to make a base salary of less than $1 million, but your cap only counts like $700,000. Right? I mean, that's
nothing.
how it works.
That's nothing, right?
So this benefit exists inside the CBA for teams to do just this. Sign these guys they don't really trust, they don't really want to pay a ton of money to, and they get a cap credit of like 33% just for doing
And this was designed because that at one point that class was basically being ignored, not getting jobs. So it was a way to get older players in where teams didn't have to necessarily pay them based on all their service and time and things like that.
And that's fine, but I think we've gone past the point of usage with that as well. Similar to how the rookie wage scale has just commandeered the team building process, right? I mean, that's just what people are doing, and we'll get to that as well. But that the middle class, right? The guys who should be making $3 to $5 million, they're not.
Right.
Either they're not getting signed.
You're making 10 or you're making 1.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, and it's all because of the CBA structure right now. There's a lot of things that I think are going to be up for discussion in the next couple of years, starting maybe in 2-3 months here, based on what we've talked about here with how these things are sort of being abused, and rightfully so. Look, you can hate the franchise tag, but it's in the CBA, so teams are going to use it, right? And players should just keep signing it until they get rid of it. These kind of things exist, and teams are not doing anything wrong by using it. I just think it's a bad way to run business. I just think telling a guy that he's worth less than $1 million just because you get a 33% cap credit, that stinks financially. That stinks. Look at these teams. We've still got teams with $60 million in cap space.
Right.
There's no cap benefits anymore.
The
no teams need cap benefits anymore except for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers somehow. How the heck do they have the least amount of cap space in the league?
But it's not about the cap. It's not about the cap credit. It's about paying guys less.
It is. But
that was when every team was within $2 million of the cap.
Right, my
That's
point
what
is,
it was
why do we even
designed
need the
for.
credit is my point.
Well, you don't need, but listen, if I own a business, right, and let's just say I own a shop, and hey, I need to bring in an experienced guy to, run the back end here. Yeah. I can pay this guy less because of the union contract says I can, and I get a cap credit for doing so.
By the way, I got to bring something back.
Why
up.
wouldn't I pay the guy why would I pay the guy more than I have to?
The teams are doing nothing wrong, Kevin. They're doing nothing wrong.
Correct.
I'm griping about the league here.
No, I would say yes, it stinks for the players given what they're doing to their bodies and what they've done to build up the team and the game and all the revenues. That's the system that's been negotiated.
For sure. It's about the CBA.
By the association.
We're going to start hearing a lot about that in the next 2 months and then for maybe a year and a half straight because all these things, they're finicky, The teams have way too much leverage, and it's because of these little things like this that I think can just get thrown out the door. Easier said than done.
Sure.
You said something last year. I wonder if you even remember this. No,
probably
it's good.
Not.
I think you said it about...
Was I drunk? No. All right.
Kevin actually said something so important that you've remembered it a year later.
The amazing thing is that I remembered it, right? No. I think it was baseball. It might have been baseball.
Okay.
Do you remember saying something about a legend benefit? No?
Yes, I did.
About how if somebody stays with a certain team for a number of years.
That's correct, yes.
It's kind of like a franchise benefit, right?
Correct.
If you agree to stay for a certain amount of years, then you should get some sort of benefit.
That's correct.
And I think this should exist in all the sports, especially basketball, right?
Sure.
If Steph Curry decides to stay with the Warriors, even if he's making $45 million a year, They shouldn't have to. There should be a $40 million cap. You know what I mean? Like,
but don't they already have that with the ability to pay your own player more than the market rate?
Yeah, but that's even more detrimental.
It's luxury
that's
tax.
Cash.
No, and I do remember saying this because just from when we grew up watching baseball, you knew unless there was a trade.
Yeah, Chipper Jones, I think we were talking about, right?
Right. I mean, you knew you wanted your team to keep your players, right? You wanted Robin Yount to be a Brewer forever, and he was, right? And it was great. And did it make sense at the time? No, but if you stay, right, you can pay this guy whatever you want to pay him because he sells jerseys. The fans love him. The city loves him.
Yeah.
He's part of the fabric of the team. Mm-hmm. So yes, to me that makes sense.
I mean, right now teams are doing it in baseball with deferred money. That is the benefit.
Yes.
But, and you're all going to make your money at the end of the day. My point is just build it into a CBA. Like if there's a maximum level, like in basketball, there are max contracts, right? So if you've got a guy on a max contract and he's over 6 years in tenure with your team, there should be some sort of cap credit for that. You should be rewarded for keeping this player on your team, because you're paying him a ton of money if he's there on a max contract.
Sure.
It's a huge cash flow. So I just think all these sports could benefit, especially football.
Well, and I think it means something to the fans too.
Yeah,
to have a player stay around.
My point is, there's a cap benefit in football for the minimum contract. That's completely backwards to me. You should be benefited for paying this guy a ton of money to stick around on your team. It should be completely flipped, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, you make a fantastic point with that. Yeah, it doesn't. It makes sense to the owners because they can pay a guy less. And bring in someone with experience, guy who's great in the locker room, but can go in there and play a little bit for you, and you can pay him a whole lot less than he is valued at based upon spot.
But I think the NFLPA could take the exact opposite stance and walk in and say, no, you get the cap benefit if you pay us a ton of coin, right?
Sure.
Like if you want to keep us here for 10 years and put on, at a certain whatever restricted, they can build the restrictions in. Like I said, there's a max contract structure in NBA that could happen in football. And if they hit this max contract, structure, there's salary cap benefits to that. I just think that is the better way to go if I'm the players. That's a little bit of leverage for the players.
Is that a well? See, the interesting thing with football is it's a little different in players' ability, right, and where he goes. But would that have kept Thurman Thomas a Buffalo Bill? For the final year of his career, right?
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Right.
The other part of the problem that makes football somewhat different is there's so much turnover in the coaching staffs, which then result in turnovers on the roster. There's positional. There's it's a great idea. I just would be curious to see where you would go with it because it tends to be a sport where there's more churn of the roster than any other.
Right. I think of Shane Doan in hockey when he didn't want to go anywhere else. Turned down trades to go elsewhere.
Joe Montana is one of the all-time great examples of that.
Well, but he went to the Chiefs. He went to the Chiefs.
He did.
Yeah, well, and that was partly because they had another Hall of Famer behind him. But
he went to the AFC Championship.
But to think that Joe Montana had to leave to go play somewhere else, I think still, but
think about
burns people.
Think about the quarterback position specifically, because that's kind of where my head was with this as well, isn't it? That's the only position that matters, right? I'm kidding. Think about if you're the Packers and you just did that deal with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And maybe in 3 years he's toast. I mean, he may be toast now based on what we saw last year. We'll have to see. But if this benefit existed, because that would be the contract that would qualify, right? That would be it. That third contract where he's staying on the team. It's max money. You had to go max on pretty much every level. That's where this benefit could do two things, right? It would allow them to have cap space for if they need to fill holes the rest of the team, fine. But it could also be cap space to draft and afford a high quarterback to replace him. So you could build it in that there's just more cap space available to be able to keep yourself rolling. And that's the whole point of a franchise, right?
Yes.
I agree with you, Paul. It is a rip up and start over the league now. Everyone's doing that, because that's just how you do it.
And that's partly because
and then you rip it down.
And it's partly because the younger players are more cost conscious, which back to your original point, why this is an arcane rule, because it was designed in a day when every team was within $2 or $3 million of the cap and couldn't afford to sign guys. Now, because everybody has gotten so much younger with their rosters, like you said, the available cap space is $50, $60, $40, $30 million on average, which teams will never fill. They'll just roll it into the next year and give themselves more the following year.
Yeah. we'll see what happens. We'll see. I mean, if
somewhere along the line, the Players Association has to go, look at all this unspent cap money. What's the point of what we're doing if there's all this unspent? The goal of the union should be every team spends within $5 million of the cap, right? Isn't that how you benefit your union members the most?
Well, there's probably two things to bring to the table next year, right? It's, do we stop the rollover?
I would think we talk about that.
Or is that the option? That there has to be a cap spending minimum, right?
Well, there is
that's
now,
closer.
but it's just
that's
not high
closer.
enough.
That's closer to the threshold. Because I don't think the NFLPA wants teams to have less cap space, right?
I would agree. Yes.
I mean, they want agents to be able to walk in the room and be like, we know you have $35 million.
Yeah, but what's the point if nobody's spending all of it?
Just look at the NHL as an example. Every year,
the NBA is just as bad.
I don't know if they have the escalator in the NBA, CBA, but the NHL does.
Yep.
Every year, yes, put the escalator up at 5%. Like, okay.
Right. And
even though the players pay into it in escrow, they just want the cap to go up so they can negotiate bigger contracts.
Sure.
Right.
Percentage
the NHL
of the
makes
cap
their money
contracts,
elsewhere.
right? As Mike has taught us, a lot of these negotiations are percentage of the cap, which allows the agents to up the numbers. But again, to my point, if teams aren't spending it, then as a union, you're failing in that there's all this pool of unspent money, and you've got guys on the street now who are going to be looking at $1 million a year. Well, that's not benefiting your membership the right way.
It's not, as long as the cash is okay, right? I bet it is. I bet the cash flow. I haven't done the numbers on that yet, but I bet the cash flow is high.
Listen, it still beats digging ditches.
No question. No question.
No offense to the ditch diggers out there.
Yes.
That's the old cat here. The world needs ditch diggers too, Billy. Right. No, they absolutely do. All right. Who are the top guaranteed spenders?
Right. So we've got this
football?
Guaranteed money being thrown around. I don't know. Maybe a couple surprises on this top five.
There's one
What do you think?
that really surprises me.
No surprise that the Jets lead because the top leading guaranteed getter is an inside linebacker, C.J. Mosley. Right, we've talked about him in length on this.
So they're
podcast.
paying out $128 million in guaranteed money
versus $256 of total value.
Right.
Yeah. So they're your leaders right there. Raiders are next. You know.
Really?
Yeah. But
I'm not surprised by that. They've gutted that roster pretty good, and they made some aggressive moves to go bring some high price guys in.
I'll tell you why I'm surprised. They traded the best defensive player in the NFL last year because they didn't have the cash to pay him.
Look, there's a lot being said about that.
Yeah, lots come out this week.
Because if you're broke in July and you're fine in December, right? That's essentially what happened here. They went from penny pension Oakland Raiders to we're spending on everybody, and they spent on everybody.
Right,
everybody. So
what happened?
I don't know what happened.
Closer to Vegas is what happened.
Do you think things got more secure with Vegas?
I believe so, yeah.
You think there was a time where maybe they didn't know where they were playing in 2019, right? I mean, all of that existed, right?
I think they're not knowing the financial maneuverings of it. Yeah. Everything that we were kind of hearing and being told was when they just didn't have the money to lay out for max guarantees at the time. Now, was that because Vegas was too far down the road? Was that because the banks wouldn't guarantee the loans at the time because the Vegas thing hadn't been all official? I don't know, but you're right. How do you go from not literally being so cash strapped that you had no choice but to trade Khalil Mack for no other reason other than the financials, not the performance part of it, and then now you come around now and you're kind of throwing wild money at guys?
Shows me that the value in maintaining ownership is worth more than maintaining a short-term player when you think about overall length of it. Because I'm sure there were offers. Hey, all right, I'll fund this, but I want 5% of the team, 10% of the team.
Probably,
right?
Probably.
Not worth it in the long run.
I mean, look, I don't want to crap on him too much.
I'm not trying to crap on him by the way either. I'm just trying to look at it from a business perspective.
I'm confused too. I think we're all just sort of confused. But let me put some numbers to it. Do you know how much Khalil Mack got guaranteed at signing?
Was it $60 million? Right?
60.
I thought it was closer to 80. Yeah,
that's a hell of a lot of money to put in escrow tomorrow. Like we're gonna do this today, and that has to happen tomorrow. Like I got to be good for that money tomorrow. That's tough.
By the way, I want to find. We need to get someone from Morgan Stanley or somebody to tell me how that actually works.
I want to know too.
Right? I mean, the dynamics of it.
A lot more.
Do you have to wire that money immediately?
Yes, because it's not. Well, listen, think about it. It's not the FDIC, right? Because let's just think of our mentality here. All right, we're middle class people.
Speak for yourself.
Okay. Sorry.
Kidding.
You just had another kid. You're definitely middle class.
broke.
No kidding.
Taking donations.
Let me tell you, they get older and it gets more expensive. Anyhow, we think of, okay, the bank will insure my deposits up to $250,000. You got $60 million.
60.
Now you got to pay taxes on some of that.
Does that clear by Friday?
I don't know. But where do you park it? Where do you put it so it's not at risk?
There has to be dynamics set up because every NFL team is doing this. Every big business does this to some degree. So there has to be things that go beyond what the norms are, or banks that deal with this specifically.
That's why we need
Morgan Stanley.
That's why we need to get somebody to figure that out. They probably put it in El Capone's vault. They probably They finally put something. Geraldo Rivera said, "I know where to put something."
Somebody hits a button and hits enter on a computer. You know how all that works now.
That's what would scare me about it.
I know,
frankly.
but
Let me wrap this up with the Raiders.
There's a guy who sent Google bills and they paid it.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't know this story. I didn't hear this story.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. That's for
a good one.
time.
Another show.
That's
but
the
I'm
pop
just saying,
culture segment of this. Yeah.
that's what concerns me about just, we got a guy on a computer. Yeah, it's there. Don't worry about it.
Crazy.
Anyhow, go ahead.
Let me throw this at you, because the rumors that are out there, right, that they might be in the market for Kyler Murray or Dwayne Haskins, right?
Yep.
And they just locked in another almost $20 million of guarantees for Derek Carr this year. So let's put $20 million down for Derek Carr. If they take a quarterback at number 4, that's $31 million more, fully guaranteed. That's $51 million to your quarterbacks this year,
to one
fully
spot.
guaranteed.
Wow.
So if they could do that, they couldn't do Mac? Wouldn't you rather do Mac?
Sure, you would. And now again, I saw the quotes from John Gruden where he claimed that they just weren't comfortable in locking up what would have been 40+% of their cap in Carr and Mac, which I think is ridiculous. But I'm just telling you what he said. I'm just telling you what he said, and he's like, we wouldn't have been able to go sign all these guys if we'd have done that.
Yeah, but you got to be smarter than that. We've been banging the head that Derek Carr can be cut at any point in time now. They could have cut him before March 15th. They can cut him next year easily. Then
maybe that was Gruden's mistake in not cutting it.
You got to know this stuff better, because if that's the stuff you're saying to the public, we all know that's not true. Right. We all know it.
It's a head scratcher. I want to get to most guaranteed positions, then tell you about something very cool.
All right, well, real quick, the one team on Mike's list of top guaranteed spenders that surprised me was Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That was the one, because I believe they were pretty tight to the cap, and they're coming off a Super Bowl 2 years ago. All those other teams are teams that had either had a lot of cap space or needed a lot of turnover. Philadelphia surprised me. Mike, explain real quick.
So they didn't spend all the dollars that these other franchises did, right? In fact, amongst the top 5 here, they're the lowest by far here, by about $6 million. They're the lowest total spenders. They just had more impactful contracts.
Okay.
Howie Roseman's just doing it right.
Yeah.
He knows when to trade people. I mean, he's been a master of the trade over the past 5 years, and then some. And look, he just knows. I can go shorter contracts for a little less total value, and I'll just add in a half a year guarantee more than other teams will, and that'll get the guy here, keep the guy here. That's just the way to do it. That's what I mean. Like, it's a no-brainer to be at 50% right now with these guarantees, because the way you can structure cap, it's funny money. You can move it all over if you need to. Any year, any given month of any given year, you can move. Look, the Patriots just restructured Michael Bennett, this morning. Of course, there's always room in the money in the banana stand, right? In Arrested Development, there's always money somewhere. That's what cap is, right? Like we can just go live our lives, and then when we need to move cap around, we do it. That's the philosophy of these good teams. Now Philadelphia did some really smart things. I want to have a little preview show, leading up to the season about them specifically, because, like I said, the trades were smart. They're still reaping the benefits of trades from 2 years ago. I mean, they just sort of saw this window coming. They knew what they were in, and we're going to get to a team who I think is right there. Right, okay. I think they're right there. They've been making these kind of intelligent moves over the past 3 years, and the numbers sort of bear them out to be the next big version of this.
They're not normally a team that's associated with the phrase "intelligent moves."
All right, let's hold that here, and let me tell you about a new show partner here at the Spot Track Podcast. It's Dynasty Owner.
Cool site.
Yeah, all these things that we're talking about, you can actually do this. Dynasty Owner is the first Dynasty salary cap fantasy sports game that not only plays the game week to week, but uses actual contracts and salaries, giving you the roster power of both coach and general manager. Wonder where they get those from? All right, you don't just trade players for players. With Dynasty Owner, you can acquire draft picks or Dynasty Dollars, our virtual currency used to play the game. Rack up Dynasty Dollars each week, whether you win or lose your matchup, and use them to build a dynasty long-term, year to year. So, if you're sick of having players on the bench, who isn't, right? They have, you bench a wide receiver as a record week, and then they nothing for you, Paul. But guess what? In Dynasty Owner, your bench earns a percentage of their performance for that week because a true dynasty is built with a deep bench. Dynasty Owner even allows you to exceed the salary cap and go all in this year. But be prepared. There is a luxury tax fine, just like the real sports world.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is the first game to combine week-to-week fantasy sports gaming with long-term ownership in GM strategy. Stop playing fantasy sports. Own it. Go to dynastyowner.com to sign up for the 2019 beta draft.
Cool stuff, huh?
Yeah, really cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's thought process goes into it, doing things like that.
Strategists, yeah.
That'll be great to see how all that unfolds, and sounds like a cool thing, dynastyowner.com. Are the Cleveland Browns going to be a dynasty?
Yeah, right? I mean, that's where we're going here, right?
Yeah. Wow. The fact that you answered that quickly in the positive, I think, is probably jolted a few people to run off the road right now.
They traded for Odell Beckham Jr. to put him next
He
to...
still can't believe it, by the way.
I'm sure.
Let alone the rest of us.
Right.
He can't believe it.
Is he going to be okay being in Cleveland and not New York?
No. My answer to that is no. My answer to that is he didn't win a darn thing in New York. Let's pump the brakes a little
you're
bit.
Crazy. You're crazy.
That he's automatically going to come and make them into a winner.
I just meant the nightlife, the Flats. I don't know if they're making a comeback in Cleveland.
The Flats is
awesome.
making
Yes.
a comeback.
Actually,
it's
awesome.
really
Right.
nice.
I like the one street there. That
I
you can
stayed
walk
there a
down
couple weeks ago. It's really nice.
Do you know why this trade has to work? Because Jarvis Landry's there.
Right?
I mean, it hits all the elements. He's got a buddy who they kind of grew up together doing this thing. Like, they became superstars together, right? They've got to be of the same mindset.
Well,
they just seem like the same kind of
better
human
hope
being.
they're of the same mindset.
Well, you got to think that this was all put into play together, right? Like, I mean, they get Landry a year before. They give him that nice contract. They're going to do the same thing with Beckham now a year later. There has been a logical progression to the Cleveland Browns, and I can't believe I'm saying that because 4 years ago we were laughing at them. Literally laughing at them. 4 years ago, we sat here, 3.5 years ago, we sat here or together somewhere, and we were laughing at the fact that they paid for a second-round pick for the rights to acquire Brock Osweiler and $16 million guaranteed.
That's right.
Do you remember how big of
Yes.
a deal it was? I was everybody else on Twitter going
no
crazy.
one had ever done it before.
It's nuts. Do you know what they turned that second-round pick into? Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is that worth your time?
Sure.
It's worth my time.
Absolutely.
Because now he's, I don't know, maybe the breakout player of the year in 2019. To add to Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., Baker Mayfield, David Njoku,
Right.
and a slew of defensive players. So many, they've been able to trade half of their starting defense away, essentially, right? I mean,
yeah.
they have...
They traded for Vernon, so they didn't need Agba, so they traded Agba away to Kansas City.
We ran some trade numbers because that's really how I got into this Browns mindset this morning in the first place, is just the amount of trades that they've been doing just kind of off the cuff here, right? Well, it's not off the cuff, right? Since 2015, they've had X number of first and second round picks. I don't have that number off the top of my head.
57. No.
But it's up there, right?
It's been a ton, yes.
They have, since 2015, they have released none of those players. All of those players are either legitimately starting for them, or have been traded. There's been no baggage, right?
So even if they didn't work out, they were able to get some value for it.
Even Corey Coleman. The freaking
even
Buffalo
Corey
Bills
Coleman,
gave up a pick for Corey
Shelton,
Coleman.
the D tackle that didn't work
Shelton
out.
to the Patriots. Peppers to the Giants from
Right.
the Odell Beckham trade.
Right.
Agba yesterday to the Kansas City Chiefs. There's more. They have been able to maneuver just from the modern way to build a team, whereas we're going to stack up draft picks. Look, they've had their share of draft pick trades too, second most in all of the league. So the proof is in the pudding. Here's your trade leaders since 2015, just general trades since 2015. Guess who's first? Any guesses?
It's the
Browns,
Patriots.
The Browns are second. It is the Patriots.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it's not even close. They're like 2-1. So Patriots, Browns, Eagles, 49ers, Seahawks. There's your trade leaders over the last 5 years.
Shows you that's the way to... If the Patriots are the leaders, that's the way to do it.
Well, because the Patriots have done it is why everybody else is starting to figure out how to do it too.
But the Patriots also... Hang on. I mean...
They come from such a different place in their ability to trade.
But why? But why?
Tom Brady. That's why.
But don't you think that's why Cleveland's operating the way they are?
Well, they
absolutely.
They are
because
in the
they
mindset
feel like
that they
have their guy. Yes, they have their guy.
And that's why the last 2 years has been sort of brilliant with what they've done. And you could go back to that Brock Osweiler move. That was brilliant. That is a smart way to use cap space.
Sure.
If you've got the cash to burn. Now, that's cash. But if you've got cap space to burn, that's a brilliant way to do it. Because look, I mean, we've talked about, Paul, I know you bang this home every week. There's nothing more impactful than a top 100 draft pick right now.
Right.
Correct? So if you could get a second-round pick for a quarterback.
But there's also no guarantee with those picks, and that's where the Browns, to some degree, have faltered. That it took them so long to get to this point was that they blew a lot of those top 100 picks.
But my point is, over the past 5 years, they haven't. I just did the research. There is Johnny Manziel is the last bust.
Yeah.
And by bust, I mean player who had to be released.
Yep.
Out of these top 2 rounds.
Well, again, to your point, you rattled off some of the names that Peppers never lived up, Shelton never lived up.
They turned Peppers into Odell Beckham Jr.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, they also, a couple of those guys got traded for basic low round picks
that
which
they probably moved up to.
Well, no,
ammo's ammo.
No, I'm with you, Mike. But I think it's unfair to say they haven't blown any picks.
Yeah, I think
there's some names on there that guys that never became legitimate starters.
I think what Paul's trying to say is they didn't draft guys with the mindset, I'm going to draft this guy to trade him.
But they've been able to
trade them because they weren't very good.
The point is they've been able to. Whereas 66% of the teams in the league will either sit too long on guys,
correct,
or wait until they have to release them because they can't find a trade partner. The Browns are not doing that.
Well,
the Browns are,
and again, for perspective, Mike, they've turned their front office over 3 times roughly in the last 5 years. So when that happens, John Dorsey comes in there and goes, "Get rid of this crap."
But the point is,
right now,
it is crap, and he's still able to trade it. Well, that's my point here.
I'm not denying any of that. I'm just giving people an idea of why
trading shit for shit
why
is still
it's
shit.
happened. Yes.
But he's still able to do it. My point is he's getting something. Ammo is ammo. Those 5th and 6th round picks have been used to move up. And when you move up, your chances of succeeding are better. And that's where we are. My point is, even where they've missed, they've benefited. They're making all the crap into something better because they're just able to make this maneuver happen.
Well, they've been smart about identifying when they miss, combined with the turnover of the front offices, which is always going to inherently lead to getting rid of players that don't fit systems.
I'm going to use a garage sale analogy here, okay? So when, my kids love having garage sales.
That's right.
And, I'll just contribute a couple things in there, but I never go into my closet and say, that's a shirt I bought last year, but I only wore it once. I'm not throwing that in the pile. I throw, this shirt's 5 years old. I throw it out there for 50 cents. You know what people want to buy? The one I only wore one time.
And you should be selling.
That's
that.
the
And
one
I should
you
be
should be
selling.
selling.
Yes, that's right, because it's got the most value.
That is the Peppers trade.
Yeah.
Where we know this guy can probably get there, but we're not waiting around for that because we got our guy right now. We got Baker Mayfield right now. And Odell Beckham Jr. is 900% better of a fit right now for this franchise. So that's what I mean. But you're joking about the 5th and 6th round picks. Look, that's how these teams just acquired Antonio Brown and Beckham Jr.
Right.
You're able to use these garbage picks packaged with maybe a not so flashy player to get the top 10 impactful players in the league.
I'll give you an example of a move they made during the season last year.
Okay.
Because of Chubb. Yep. Carlos Hyde.
Of course. And they're going to do it with Duke Johnson probably tomorrow. Maybe today.
Right.
Maybe today. That's the point.
Hey, you're good, but you know what? You're not as good as this guy. We don't need you anymore. I'm going to get what I can for you while I can get
Which is
something
such a
for
different thinking that it's been in the NFL for many years because teams we better keep him in case we need him, or maybe he'll emerge next year, or my reputation's on the line with the pick that I made from. And that's where I give the Browns a ton of credit and give John Dorsey and those guys a ton of credit for not having any of those feelings whatsoever.
It is.
Now, granted, most of those players are players they didn't necessarily draft, which makes it a lot easier to say, get that other guy's player out.
I just think they probably also have the mentality of they take a phone call. Who are you interested in?
Totally.
Okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that.
That's
I'm
how
not
we
winning
wrote.
with
That's
the
the
guy.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Right.
Everybody's worth a phone call.
Right.
Everybody. Right. And it's not a coincidence that this list has the Patriots and the Eagles and the Seahawks on it. It's not a coincidence. These have been the burners for the last 5 years, right? 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
It is clearly something that the smart teams know how to do well. And here's the thing. It's a mentality, right? Right. When you know that the Patriots are always good for a trade, they're always up for a trade, you're going to call them first.
Right.
Because you're looking for a partner, right? if you know that you're the Dallas Cowboys who really never move anybody, or the Pittsburgh Steelers who really never move anybody, I'm just using them. They're not good examples. But why even bother? I'm not even going to try to call them until the very last minute when I need somebody or anybody. But when you have a mentality of trading early, and when people know that every Eagle might be on the block, it's just worth a phone call.
Sure.
When you're having these conversations, look, you want to trade with people you know. That's my point. It's just like doing business outside, right? Like, you want to do business. You want to have a landscaper who's somebody you can trust and know. You'd rather have, your cousin do it because you can trust him, or you can give him hell when you need to. That's how these relationships work. That's why trading's so hard, because these guys are isolated generally. These front offices are isolated. They want their own players and they want to take care of themselves. But these front offices that we're mentioning here, they have been fluid. They've been communicating with other teams. Look, there's no reason an AFC team should ever trade with the Patriots, but every year, like 6 AFC teams trade players to the Patriots. Why? What's the answer? You're only making them better.
Right, because there's nobody else that they're the ones that want to make the deals.
Because they'll do it.
I think many general managers, personnel directors fall in love with their draft picks.
No question.
And they want them to come to
It's an ego.
fruition. Right, to show how great they were. We put all this work into this guy. We draft him. We owe it to ourselves to have this guy come to fruition. Well, if it's not working out, you need to move on quickly, right?
Right, but that's hard to do when jobs are on the line, reputations are on the line. Boy, if I trade that guy, it's admitting a mistake, and what's my owner going to say to me? Like, why'd you pick him if you're going to get him? And that's where a lot of the league still is. It's the ones... First off, it's always been the Patriots because they've never fallen in love, nor does Bill Belichick have anybody really to answer to. Yeah. So it's always been them, and they've always been the outlier. You're starting to get other teams that are more willing to either do that based on their relationship with their owners, or just the fact that I don't care what anybody thinks. If it doesn't work, I'm moving on.
Everything you just said is correct, and that's why, don't we have to give the Giants a hell of a lot of credit here for trading Odell Beckham?
Yes.
I mean, they had to answer all those questions. You just gave him a $20 million signing bonus. You've been saying all winter long, we didn't sign him to trade him. Trading him was the right move.
No question.
I mean, benching or getting rid of Eli is the other right move, but they're not going to do that yet. Maybe if they draft Haskins, we'll see. But this was a franchise changing move for the Giants. And
to my point,
that into this modern version of this team building process.
My point that I brought up to you earlier, I'll spin this back here. From the Giants' perspective, they didn't really reach the goals they wanted to reach with the greatest wide receiver in the league on their roster. So I could understand how there would be some thinking that he's great. We know he's great.
See, I can't do that. I can't put this on Beckham.
I think you have to.
This has got to be on Eli.
Well, there's some of it's on Beckham too with his behavior as well too, which also takes me to the point where I love what the Browns are doing, and I hope that Cleveland gets what it wants out of this. But I'm always a little scared when we trumpet the teams that win in March by adding all the big names. Doesn't always tend to work out September through December.
Well, here's the beauty. They're doing it while their quarterback's cheap, right?
Of course.
So that's smart. Hey, let's bring on the expensive weapons and upgrade there with our gunslinging quarterback, which they should be fun to watch.
Oh, without question.
Right?
There's a reason we're talking about them in April.
Yes, right.
I mean, their defense is young and fast. Their defense is so good, they've been able to trade 2 starters in the past 2 weeks. That's how good they are. And one of them is a pass rusher. I mean, who's trading pass rushers right now? You know what I mean? It's crazy. I mean, they're loaded. They're deep. They've got a ton of cap space still. They can extend players if they need to.
Does Myles Garrett have a monster year next year?
Yeah.
He should, right?
Well, because they're going to be a better team, which means he's going to have more pass rush opportunities. It always works that way.
Right.
Great pass rushers on bad teams aren't always thought to be great pass rushers.
Speaking of a team that could use Ndamukong Suh, by the way. I mean, you got $10 million to burn this year on a 1-year deal? Why not? This is what the Rams did when they thought they were ready to go last year, right? Worked out pretty well for them. If the Browns think they're ready,
all right. Let's finish the show. Let's circle back to where we started basketball. We were planning on starting football, by the way, but we started because we're just talking about Zion Williamson. LeBron James shut down for the season.
Thoughts?
What took him so long?
You're okay with this? See, I think about
am I okay with it from a competitive standpoint? No. And remember, I work for a professional sports franchise that didn't use the word tank, but everybody covered the team did use the word tank, and all of us in the office hated it.
Okay,
because you play a sport to compete and win. And by shutting down your best player, you're telling the rest of the league and your teammates we're not going to compete the rest of the way here. We're not going to put our best team out there.
I obviously agree with all that. Here's what I want to bring up. This happens all the time in every sport.
It does.
In every sport, right? The last 15 days of the calendar year, the league year, this stuff happens. The Lakers Luke Walton actually came out and said it's not worth it for him to play anymore.
They're out of the playoffs.
That's what bothers me.
Right.
What you just said is that should continue to happen. Keep lying to us. Keep telling us you're going out, you're putting your best foot forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right.
Don't come on the microphone and say, no, we're terrible. We're going the wrong way here. We got to get this guy out of here.
He knows he's out of there too. Come on.
Clearly.
Right? I mean,
But that's what's bothering me the most here is that they're so transparent about this whole process. Right?
you know what? I'll give him credit. So,
Why?
No, here's what I'm going to give him credit, because Luke Walton, and obviously, I don't know if he just lone wolfed this or not, but they know people aren't stupid. They're not insulting the fans with that. I say, look, it's not worth.
Couldn't you just say it's the groin? Hey, the groin flared back up. We got to sit him out for the rest of the year.
Say,
make sure he's healthy.
He's not 100%.
That's it.
We're not in a playoff
That's it.
race. We want LeBron James 100% by the start of the season.
That's all I'm asking for, Kevin.
Sure. Yeah.
That's all I'm asking for.
Right.
Just don't go all the way. Don't agree to come to terms with the fact that you're so bad that losing is better right now, publicly, because that's what they did.
Well, losing better for draft position, sure it is, but I think just looking at LeBron himself here, I mean, there's a lot of miles on that Maserati, okay? A lot of miles. Is Maserati a sponsor yet? They should be. Anyways, there's a lot of miles, all right, on this sports car here, and you can reduce the mileage so you get more use out of them next year when you're going to be a better team or project to be a better team.
Well, that's the other interesting thing, and this is likely this is the discussion for another edition of this podcast.
There'll be a better team.
Has LeBron's season clouded the desire of other people to want to come to play with him now?
No.
Also, do you trust
at his age and the injury and all the other things, and for whatever perception of his inability to raise the Lakers, which he's always been able to do, are there free agents that were thinking about going to LA that are like, I don't want to go there?
I'll tell you why the answer is no, because the free agents to be and players, they're not stupid. They play against those players.
Yeah,
they know.
I don't know, man.
You don't think so?
I've got two gripes. I'm with Paul here that I think that LeBron's aura took a hit this year, right? He's
a little bit, yeah,
for sure.
He's 35 years old. It's inevitable,
and he's always been tough to play with. That's just been public knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, people have left because they don't want to play with LeBron James.
Clearly,
now maybe he's a different guy now in his mid-30s.
I would say no
to play with. Oh, you know what I mean? Maybe he's a little more generous. Maybe he's a little bit more, you take over now.
Or maybe he's seeing the end and he's even more maniacal about it.
So here, this is what pissed me off about him not playing. He needed to go out and show that this was the guy he was, right? I realize the kids are all hurt. Right? Literally, I've got numbers. They're all hurt. But you got to go out there and sell yourself, because it's been terrible. You missed 20 games throughout the middle of the winter, the most important part of the season. Obviously, they've been a mess ever since. He's got to be a showman here, because I don't know if I trust the Lakers front office to rebuild this thing.
There are some.
So it's got to be on him.
There are some optics here, and have been throughout the season, that don't look good, right? LeBron James just had a show debut.
Yeah.
From executive producer LeBron James.
Yes.
He's got like 2 shows, maybe
shop.
3.
Yep.
Right. That 3. Yeah. The barbershop show.
Yep.
This
Miracle
Mile. He had another show that he's
all
done
over
in the past.
The place. Yeah.
No, he's a businessman.
Yep.
Right. And in Hollywood for a reason. So that show tells me that's why he went to Hollywood.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Sure.
He didn't go to win immediately. That's obvious, because if he wanted to win immediately, he would have stayed in the Eastern Conference. I still think there'll be players who want to come play with LeBron. Kyrie Irving probably wants to come back and play with LeBron.
I don't know. I really don't know. It's going to be an incredible 3 months here for the NBA offseason. I mean, are the Warriors going to break up? Do the Knicks get anybody? Do the Lakers get anybody? Yeah. I mean, do the Clippers get everybody? I mean,
the guys that would desire to play in LA might be thinking as much about the Clippers
for sure.
I am gonna go with it's the Lakers.
Yeah, I think that's us being a little older too shades that conversation a little bit.
Listen, they're not that far removed from the Kobe Bryant era when they won championships. It's the Lakers. This is one of, if not the most iconic franchise in the NBA. Lakers, Celtics are the two, right? And then we'll throw the Bulls in after there.
Yeah.
Those are the big three.
Not
to
the
me.
Pelicans? No. Okay.
No.
TBD.
So I still think it's LeBron James. I think players have incredible respect for him. I still think he is a great player. I still think he can be a great player. And now everybody's questioning him.
Fine, but this question will probably never be answered. What in the hell was this year? What was this?
This is a relocation year for him.
But not even him. The rest of the what was this Lakers build? Who
their build was getting LeBron.
Yeah.
Give me a video of the people in the room
they didn't do enough other than
who
that.
decided that and like this wasn't like a waiting game. they had Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signed, I don't know, like an hour into free agency, then Rajon Rondo right after. These players were all part of the puzzle. Like this was a thought out process. I want to see that video or read that book because this was a nightmare. Like you probably knew what, December of 2018, December of 2017 that you were getting LeBron James, right? I mean, that's when the rumors started to fly and we all sort of assumed that was going to happen. So you've known for this long and you've done all that. You did all that homework and this is the team you put out there? I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. I mean,
well, I believe they thought Paul George was coming.
Fine. You're right.
Okay.
That was a big swing and a miss.
Yes.
And that would have changed a lot of things for
Yes, it
sure.
Sure would have.
And maybe that's understated. You're right. But the rest of this, it was a complete waste of LeBron James' time. Right?
On the basketball court.
Did this not ruin his legacy?
No.
I disagree. I disagree. He's still an all-timer.
Ruin is too strong.
But he will
a word.
never be one of the greatest ever now.
Oh, I disagree with you.
I just
He missed the playoffs. He missed the playoffs.
Yeah, but
that's fine.
It happens. It happens.
Mike, I think you are
But
way overstating
It didn't happen to the great ones.
There are people who are argue he's the greatest NBA player ever. I don't believe he is. But
My point
I believe
is
he's in
you
the
can't
conversation.
argue that anymore.
Oh, sure you can.
No. This was a mess. This was an absolute mess.
It's a 1-year mess.
That's it.
For right
that those
now.
players didn't have. Jordan didn't have this. Bird didn't have this.
Wait.
Jordan left. Jordan
early in his career.
Jordan air quotes left.
Yes. Okay. You used air quotes.
Yeah, I know what's going on there.
Had Jordan stayed, yes. And Jordan, well, wait a second. At the end of Jordan's career, he didn't make it with the Wizards.
Come on.
Come on, what? You're comparing end of career eras. I know Jordan was 40. He was late 30s, 38, right?
Come on. LeBron was 33.
I'm just saying. Listen, LeBron, it's not done yet.
No,
he went to the better conference.
I just want to know what this year was. What was this year?
It was a relocation year. Period. Oh. He got to the Lakers where he wanted to go. They wanted him, and I really think Paul George.
Yeah, let's blame
coming.
it on Paul George.
No, I'm not blaming it on Paul.
No, it's fair. It's fair.
I think the deal with Paul George was coming, and they were going to. These other people are going to be complementary pieces around LeBron and Paul George.
That's fair.
And the other players are decent players, but they're not stars who can carry the load when LeBron's not able to carry the load.
Crazy how the wheels fell off here.
Yeah. So
the Clippers are a better franchise right now. They are a more attractive franchise.
And I disagree
Coach
a little
too.
bit with Kevin in that I don't know that the players of today think the same way of the marquee franchises and all that other stuff. I don't know that there's quite that much. For our generation, it was the Lakers and the Celtics and the Bulls. For the younger generation that are just in the league, that's
they all grew up watching Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, but they didn't grow up watching Magic and Bird and Showtime. But that's part of the Laker
They won 3
aura.
titles with Kobe.
Yeah, but Paul George picked Oklahoma City over the Lakers.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah,
that was a shock to everybody. For sure.
It's not a slam dunk that the Knicks and the Lakers load up this year. Is my point.
Well,
it's not a slam dunk.
No, the Knicks are never a slam dunk. Why have the Knicks been terrible for so long? I understand that.
Yeah,
which is puzzling to me. Yeah. Why they've been terrible for so long?
Go Brooklyn.
Right? I mean, they haven't been good since Patrick Ewing. So
Brooklyn and the Clippers versus Knicks and the Lakers. Who's winning that battle right now?
I don't know. Listen, if I
crazy, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I see. I was always thinking the Clippers for LeBron.
Yeah, you did say that quite a lot.
I did say that because you could be one of the greatest.
But
Clippers.
I loved him with Doc Rivers too. I loved that.
Yeah, well,
I know Doc's tough, but so is LeBron, right?
The LeBron story is not done.
No.
He's still
This was a big hit, though.
He's still be considered one of the greatest NBA players
Of all time.
To me, it's still Jordan. To me,
Is it over Bill Russell? Yeah.
Yes, Michael Jordan.
Okay.
You know, the way he played the game on both ends of the floor. I think Jordan's a better defender than LeBron. Now, the argument with LeBron is he could play any position. Mm-hmm. So could Jordan, right? He just is not as big, but damn, he was pretty good down in the paint. Then you could argue, hey, Magic Johnson did the same thing too. There are a handful of great players. But right now, I'm just saying, Michael Jordan to me, who is it to you?
Jordan, but I think that's a generational thing more than anything.
Well, it's not some say Larry Bird was the best.
No, it's Jordan.
It's Jordan.
It's Jordan.
Hands down then.
Yeah, Jordan
okay.
For a lot of reasons, not just on the court. He made me care about basketball when I was a huge baseball guy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's a lot of reasons for it, but yeah.
Okay. Great stuff. Want to mention one more time, Morgan Stanley, Global Sports and Entertainment. If you're a professional athlete, entertainer, and listening to this, the knowledge you need to make good decisions with your cash, your wealth. Learn more. Visit morganstanley.com/GSE. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. Make sure you check out SpotTrack.com. Consider becoming a premium member. You get an ad-free experience and lots of other goodies there, too, at SpotTrack.com. For Paul Peck and Mike Giannetti, I'm Kevin Sylvester. Thanks for listening to the SpotTrack.com podcast.